they got a little bit of hop in their step, and they got the big win, and that's the biggest thing that matters.
All right, and they avoid the historic streak. No team has ever lost 19 straight games in the NHL in the last 30 years since ties were excluded. So you can see they tie the 2003-2004 Pittsburgh Penguins. And that is not a streak they wanted to continue any longer. So again, they'll take on the Rangers coming up on Thursday night. But let's dissect this one. Did you see something different from Buffalo tonight that we didn't see in the previous 18 games?
The biggest thing, and not to suggest that they haven't been trying, because we know they have, and we've been in situations before where you're on a team that's struggling. But the biggest thing was urgency, really, for me in this one. And as the game went along, they were a little more urgent. They believed in themselves a little bit more, which is tough to find, Rupper, when you're struggling. A lot of times on the ice, when things aren't going your way, you can be your worst critic. And when they're not going your way for your team collectively, that's also the same to be said. But I love the urgency that they showed in this one. As the game went along, they were in good defensive position, had some good habits. They weren't cheating on plays defensively. Yeah. All that led to the win for me.
And it's so much of that comes into play with how your goaltender is able to play when those things are happening in front. And I thought Linus Ullmark was they've got the stops. Yep. And they got the stops they needed in the game. And they haven't gotten that a lot of times this year. And a lot of times that falls on the goaltender's shoulders. But a lot of times that's the players in front, too, not having that effort, that second effort. So they put those things together, and they ended this awful streak. And now they can at least have their smile on their face today or this evening, and back to the drawing board tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice to see some of these guys smiling, having fun out there, because it has been a long, rough stretch for the Buffalo Sabres and their fan bases. You talked about getting the stops. The one thing that hasn't stopped is the Flyers' defense right now. It just seems like there's some kind of big void there. And we saw a couple of healthy scratches going into this game. We know the situation going on with Carter Hart right now, but of course, Oscar Lindblom and Nolan Patrick healthy scratched for this game. What do you make of those decisions, and where does Philly now go from here?
It's really confusing, because the Flyers really established a style of game and an identity to who they were, Rupper, last year, and even for the first quarter of this season. So I liked what I saw from the Flyers. I've been very bullish on them. In this stretch, though, what I'm not seeing is those same key pieces to their identity. Are you physical? Not really. Are you battling? Not necessarily as hard as you can. Are you an offensive team? We know they can score. Are you defensive? Not at all. And now this leaves me wondering where they are as a team right now.
Yeah, we always talk about identity, and I think sometimes we lob it up there and maybe don't clarify what that means. What your identity is, it's what your team looks like every night, individually and collectively. This team did that last year. They had that identity. They were a team that was they're going to be running, and you're going to know when you're playing against the Flyers, and they're going to be the competing and battling for pucks, and they've gotten away from that, and you don't see it now. And some of the effort, even late in the game there, when this game's out of hand against Buffalo, you just see some real lackadaisical play, and that's not the way the Buffalo Sabres got that #1 seed in the bubble not too many months ago.
Yeah, I know exactly what you meant there. And to that point, Flyers specifically, and we both played against them a lot in our career, especially in this division and around here. They always had that piece of identity where they were hard to play against. Not suggesting that they're the Broad Street Bullies, but you knew when you're going into Philly, you're going in for a game. It was going to be a heavy game, a power game. The boards were going to be hard in terms of a lot of the battles in and around there in front of both nets, respectively. Those things aren't happening right now. That's Philadelphia Flyers hockey at its core. So from an identity standpoint, I don't see it. Now, listen, I know they might be managing Oscar Lindblom based on his recovery. So if that's the case, fine. But if he's healthy and he's actually a healthy scratch, I'm not down with that. No, not me.